So I was actually looking into ancient Rome a little bit because of the movie we watched for the podcast today.
Oh, I'd be concerned if you were just doing it.
I mean, I don't know. It depends on the day of the week, I guess. Thursday is ancient Rome day, apparently. But did you know that the Colosseum, back in ancient Rome times, they would occasionally flood the interior of the Colosseum to do ship-to-ship battles?
And people would sit right next to it and watch?
Like in the stands or the seats.
Wow.
Yeah. Basically,
we should have more of that nowadays. That's cool.
Basically doing medieval times before medieval times was a thing.
Man, can you imagine, like, obviously there's probably, like, some kind of cannonball if it just missed and some guy's, like, in the crowd and he's like, yeah! And he just gets absolutely cannonballed?
Not a cannonball, but like a giant ballista, like a giant crossbow bolt. And he's just like,
yeah!
And then straight through the chest and impaled into the Colosseum. And he's like, whoa!
That's cool.
New canon. That should have been in the movie. Speaking of which, welcome back to the Drive Back Podcast. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Adrian.
And today, we have a Rewatchables, which is what, Adrian?
Where both Garrett and I have seen the movie, and we take a little walk and see if it's still worth watching in today's modern era.
That's absolutely right. I like the little sting there at the end, because we're going back to some ancient times. With this one, we, of course, are checking out Gladiator. Not
Troy.
Not Troy, which Adrian got confused last week, which is kind of adorable. But what was your history with Gladiator? Did you see it as a kid? Did you see it kind of later in life? Because this is a rewatchable, so...
So I have seen it, yes. I did, my dad showed it to me when I was little, just because we had it on DVD, and it's obviously, I mean, no real secret, but it's gone down as just a really good movie throughout the years. So it's just one of the ones that I was shown.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember seeing this at, like, friends' houses. Just because, like, my parents were never interested in movies like this. I mean, on top of being, like, a historical time period that my dad didn't really care about. It was also kind of bloody and violent, which my parents aren't really into. So I never really watched it at home, but watched it at plenty of friends' houses. And that kind of built up the mystique around it. But we're here now to take another look at it. So let's go ahead and jump right into the arena. So Gladiator was released in 2000. So 22 years ago. It was directed by Ridley Scott and stars Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, and Connie Nielsen. A former Roman general sets out to exact vengeance against the corrupt emperor who murdered his family and sold him into slavery. It was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Art Direction, Best Original Score, Best Film Editing, Best Cinematography, Best Original Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actor for Joaquin Phoenix. It won 5 Oscars for Best Visual Effects, Best Sound, Best Costume Design, Best Actor for Russell Crowe, and Best Picture. So we do have another Best Picture after last week's Around the World in 80 Days. It is also worth it to note that currently Gladiator is rated 37th on IMDb's top 250.
Wow.
Which is pretty high up there.
Yeah.
But let's... Quick spoiler-free thoughts. I feel like most people have seen this movie at one point, whether it was on TV or maybe they saw it in theaters, but...
I think there was a solid period where, like, whatever the movie channel on Dish would just, like, run this movie, like, once a day for, like, years. It just was one of those movies. I guess I'll go for my spoiler-free. I mean, it's obviously a really good movie. I think what really caught me off guard this time was maybe just watching it with a little bit more of, like, adult life experience and like understanding stakes a little bit more. Obviously it's just a great action movie. There's a lot of stuff that's a lot deeper than that in this movie, like the Cold War. There's like a Cold War going on. There's like all kinds of stuff happening. Like it's like a lot of layers to it, and the movie does a really good job. But as an adult, there's just a lot more weight to a lot of the decisions that are made and a lot of the feelings. So I think watching it again, there was just a lot more there, which I think was probably why this won Best Picture, because I was a kid at the time and just liked blood and swords.
Which this has in ample amounts when it's actually in the arena living up to its namesake. But as far as my spoiler-free thoughts, I think this movie's pretty good. It's pretty great. I definitely think a lot of it holds up, except for the shots with the still exposed secrets, I guess you could say. There is still a shot that shows an air canister in the back of a chariot as it flipped over. Although it does appear that they have edited out the plane that was up in the sky.
Yes, I remember that, but I also feel like this, like nowadays, movies can like live edit things. Like in Endgame, they'll be like, "There's something wrong," and they'll literally like in theaters change the movie. Like we're definitely at a day and age where like that happens all the time. This movie's historic now. It's 22 years old, like you said. So I don't expect Ridley Scott to go back and demand they edit out the air canister.
But I think as far as any kind of like spoiler-free critical thoughts I can give, I do think it is a little too long. It could have been shortened down in some areas, I think. And it doesn't seem like it's always historically accurate, but that's not really what it's going for. So it's kind of forgivable in this case. But let's go ahead and dive into spoilers. If you want to watch Gladiator, I believe it was on Netflix.
I have it, so
let me double check where it's on real quick, because I don't remember where I watched this movie, to be completely fair. The movie Gladiator is currently streaming on, Prime Video. So if you have Prime Video, it is streaming on there. So spoiler warning, out of the way, let's talk Gladiator. And one of the big things off the bat that I would like to bring up are the performances. I think Russell Crowe is very good in this movie.
Yes, and Joaquin Phoenix is incredible.
I would have flipped to the awards. I would have given the supporting actor to Joaquin Phoenix, and I don't think I would have given Russell the award per se, but it still would have nominated him, because
I think they both should have won. I think they both deserved that. I think if I had to reflect on why Joaquin Phoenix may not have, it's because of some of maybe the like incestuous undertones for his character that might have been deemed like, I don't know, just like somewhat of like a gray area. They didn't want to applaud that, you know? So I can see that there may have been like some political stuff involved in that, but I think I think he's one of the better villains in movies. I think he's really, really interesting. And same reason that I love Thanos so much, because you can also kind of understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Like, he had his whole life robbed from him. Or about to be. Like, that's kind of like you're bred your whole life for something to have it be like, no, this other dude gets it all.
Yeah. This guy that's not even a family member, he's not anything. He's kind of like a brother, they kind of allude to at some points. He's just going to
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean...
Is this just a Thor and Loki situation?
No, I don't think it's that far. I think it might be... You could read into this as, like, a fascist takeover of a country when you're trying to reestablish a democratic republic kind of a thing. You could read into it that way. I just think it's a historical action movie with a little bit of revenge in there.
The whole thing is revenge.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that this movie is at its peak when it is in the arena. When it's showing off the interior shots of the Colosseum, the point when they actually get to the Colosseum for the first time and they walk out to do the Battle of Carthage, that shot is impeccable. Where it sweeps around everything. And you see why it won the Best Visual Effects Oscar. And that whole battle sequence is fantastic. Even the ones in the smaller arena are really good. The one-on-one fight, even though there's some janky editing with the tigers, you can tell they weren't quite on screen at the same time. It's fantastic. The armor design on that enemy with the face, with the tear-up eye, is fantastic. And then the final fight, too, between Maximus and the Caesar.
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic as well. Everything in the arena is fine. I think, for me, the film struggles a little bit to maintain its level of interestingness when it's in its more plotting moments. And not by much. It's not enough to take me out of the movie or make me want to fast forward or skip or anything. Because there is enough there. There's enough meat in the connivingness of Joaquin Phoenix's character. There's enough, courage in the character of Russell Crowe and his allies. So there is enough to keep you interested. It's just, when you hear Gladiator, you're expecting a little bit more in the arena. And maybe it was, maybe they already thought they had enough violence and enough bloodshed. I would have liked to have seen more. Maybe there's a little bit of kind of a false advertising critique that I have in calling it Gladiator when it's not really about he's a gladiator, sure, but not like for his entire time. He starts as general, goes to gladiator, and then, you know, there's other stuff that happens. I would have like, you know, maybe it would have been more on the nose to call it Revenge or something. I don't know. I can't think of a good title right now, but I don't know. There's just a little bit of that in there. Not enough to make me take off any points or anything, but like that little bit in the back of my head where I'm like, I would have preferred a little bit more about the arena. Like I would have like, you know, focus on the Coliseum. Show us those ship-to-ship battles. Maybe they didn't have the technology at the time to do something like that. But, like, show us more history of the Coliseum in those action moments, in those set-piece moments. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm just taking some shots in the dark here.
That was the craziest string of accusations against this movie I've ever heard. Yeah, wow. False advertising. So, 80% of this movie takes place in the arena.
That is a lie. It's like a good 30% taking place in the arena. The first 30 minutes is like a battlefield, and then...
Which also is incredible, because the first 30 minutes...
it's great. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, like, it's, like, proportionately, there's not as much in the arena with Gladiator fighting as I would expect to be in a movie called Gladiator.
That is fascinating. I think this movie has a ton of really good... arena. Everything about the arena I think is sufficient. I really like all the plotting stuff that happens in the background. I think the whole struggle for power between the senators and the emperor is super fascinating, and I love power grab stuff like that. I love the beginning. I think the battle is awesome, and I think it reminds me of what it felt like pre-COVID, because this movie has a lot of real extras in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not all CGI, all those people in the crowd, for the most part. And that big battle is like, I don't know, like 600 extras all literally fighting on a battlefield. And it feels so real and so visceral. And especially during COVID, we leaned a lot on CGI. And I feel like now when I watch movies, I can tell that there's like, oh, there was no one on set for this. Like, you can just feel it. It doesn't feel alive. And this movie feels alive. Every single minute of it does. It feels like a real world that you're living in. And I think, yeah, the Gladiator stuff was awesome. I think the whole arc of going from general to slave, from slave to gladiator, from gladiator to hero of the people, like, I think the whole arc was awesome. Yeah, I really
being able to take over, almost get into that position to relinquish Rome to the people, but doesn't quite get there. Yeah,
but I think his death is...
Oh, it's more meaningful than...
It's more powerful than him taking over.
Oh, yeah.
It's the martyr situation where his death meant more than him living would ever do. And I think that it's perfect. The way he dies is symbolic, and it's awesome, and it's really good.
Very well handled. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, and Joaquin Phoenix goes out like the little punk bitch that he is, which is great. Just choking on his own blood.
I really do like his character, though. I found this rewatch super multi-level of just like the emotions and the thought process and the anger and like the impulsive actions. And I found it super, super interesting this watch through to kind of see his character arc and the downfall and the spiral. And I found it really, really exciting.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm putting some interesting thoughts and some weird tangents out there, but I do really enjoy this movie. I think it is very good, and I want to make that clear. But because my tangent apparently goes all over the map.
Okay, yeah. That's it.
It's weird stream of thought. Long work day, and now I'm just like, yeah, a movie does things. But I mean, also, I did not know it was Connie Nielsen playing Joaquin Phoenix's sister. Connie Nielsen,
I don't know.
We both know she was Wonder Woman's mother in.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
wow.
She looks completely different now, than she did back in 2000. So like I was like, wait a minute, I think I know who that is, and I was like, oh, that's shit, cool. Like that's awesome. I thought she was great in the movie. The slave owner, like the retired gladiator, really good choice of film. Jaimin Hansu is great as always, as the supporting kind of ally character. It's really unfortunate that Jaimin Hansu doesn't get any lead roles, because I think
he's always the sidekick, henchman, assistant, helper.
Exactly, and it's really unfortunate because I think he has the chops to lead a movie.
But maybe I really like him, but maybe they found that he doesn't. Maybe he just doesn't screen well when he does like hero, like main character stuff.
Or maybe he doesn't want it. You never know. Maybe it's easier to get the side roles.
Maybe it's one of those things like you know what you're good at and you make enough money and you just keep doing that. Like, yeah, maybe he doesn't want to be the head of a franchise.
Exactly.
It's a lot of work, right? All the PR, like.
Oh yeah.
Like if you look at the Robert Downey Jr.'s and the Chris Evans and like the Russell Crowes, their press junkets are insane. Like they are the face of the movie. And when you're the second character, kind of know it. Like you're not in the limelight. Like you could probably go out to dinner and only like a couple people might be like ecstatic to see him. Like it's a little bit more of a normal life.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's a really, really good point. One other thing I want to bring up too, like we already talked about, is the first battle sequence in the forest. As far as I know, probably the most well-known Roman battle sequence in a movie ever, I would say. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Handled really well. We said that all the extras make it work. It's bloody and it's violent without being too comical. I mean, there are a couple months a little bit later on in the arena where it does get a little comical. Like
I think it just feels more visceral. Like it feels like, it's a lot of blood, but it feels like tangible.
Yeah, there's not even really that much blood. It's just more, it feels more gritty. It feels more like you're there and getting dirty with them. Whereas like a little bit later in the arena when they're doing like the Carthage part and there's that archer woman, she's like, ah! And then she gets chopped in half and it looks like a really bad, dummy falling down. Where that feels a bit more comical. The first battle feels really good. And even a lot of the like we said, a lot of the arena fighting is very good as well. When it's more like the one-on-one, when the chaff has been narrowed down and it's just like the good remaining. But looks like you had something you wanted to add.
It reminded me that like there's a lot of parts in this movie where Russell Crowe like reaches down and before battle and like rubs the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really like that wasn't like because that's such like a cheesy thing. Like people like I do that if I'm pretending to go into battle. Like that's just such like a the dirt. Like I don't know, but I felt like it was cool that they kept it consistent through the movie. And to me, by the end, I was kind of grappling with it. Like it's him, like getting dirty before the battle, like willing to get his hands dirty, so he starts out dirty. Like it's not. Like he's gonna try to stay like fight super clean. He's like, no, like this is like I already have the dirt on me. Like I'm gonna fight as hard as I can.
There's also a little bit of the way that I read into it too, where you pick it up in your hands like, nah, this dirt isn't good enough to bury me in. Like that's how I kind of read into it a little bit, but I can see where you're coming from too.
That's pretty cool.
And as far as I remember, they never talk about it. They never explain it. So, like, that is also nice. You don't have to narrate to us exactly every single little thing.
Show, don't tell. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of show. Like, I can read into... We both read into that differently, and it made the movie better for each of us. Like, had they explained it, and if it wasn't what we thought, it would have been like okay.
I wouldn't say it makes the movie better. It makes the character more mysterious. Like, you want to know more.
Yeah, and I feel like had they explained it, it would have been like, oh, okay, like, well, we know, but... I had this other idea, so I'm a little disappointed that it's for this other thing. Like, let us imagine. I think that's the best part.
There's no forced sequence like, hey, why do you do that? Oh, it's because I like to get my hands dirty. Like, there's no
like
forced
that,
moment.
Yeah, what just happened was terrible. Yeah, I would hate if that was in a movie.
Intentionally, I wasn't trying to write a good
I know,
scene.
And I'm not trying to roast you. I'm saying, like, that would have been such a jarring, like, weird statement for a film to do. Like, it's so forced and so in your face that you're like, yeah, I interpreted that. Like, thank you.
Maybe it's because I rewatched it recently. I recently rewatched Goodfellas because Paul Sorvino passed away, and I was like, I'll give it another shot. I haven't watched it in a while, and it just reminds me of the whole opening sequence. I just imagine Russell Crowe like, as far as I remember, I've always wanted to get my hands dirty in an arena. Like, just out of nowhere, like, oh, thanks Scorsese for the intro to this movie. But anyhow, I mean, that's all I got to say. It's a good movie. As far as
Hans Zimmer did the audio, right?
Hans Zimmer did the music for this.
Yeah, incredible music. The Gladiator theme song is to die for.
The one that plays at the end with the singer. Yes, I would say the rest
the
of the music.
super theme song.
Okay, for Hans Zimmer.
No, like the thing you associate with Gladiator. That song is incredible.
Yeah, very, very good. The rest of the score is middle of the road for Hans, I would say.
Well, it was he was still kind of, I think, this was kind of one of his first
more towards the beginning of his career, yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, I would say like Interstellar, Dunkirk are all going to be light years
all
better.
within the last like 6 years.
Yeah, exactly. When he's
not 22 years
when
ago,
he's come farther along. Yeah, so I mean that's all I've really got. Adrian, is there anything else you want to add for Gladiator?
No, I'll wrap it up into my final thoughts. I think this movie holds up super well. It is definitely worth a rewatch if it's been a couple years or 10 years or even 22 years. It definitely holds up, and if obviously we've all aged in 22 years, you'll probably get something really different and really cool out of this movie. And I think it holds up really, really well. So because of that, I give this movie an 89.
89, all right. As far as Gladiator goes, I said, while it may or may not always be historically accurate, the overly long Gladiator mostly holds up to this day, with Crowe's passionate performance and Phoenix's incredible villain leading the way. Because of that, I did give the movie an 82.
Pretty close.
I will say, as far as Oscar winners go, I wouldn't say it's one of the better ones. I mean, I think that there are definitely better films that have won the award, not just newer films, older films as well. But I'm interested to see what films it went up against that year, which is, I'm really curious, because we should have done that. I think we kind of did that with Around the World in 80 Days. Let me see here. Best Picture, it was, where is it going to be? Am I going to have to scroll all the way down because they don't know how to order their lists? Okay, here. So the nominations that year were Chocolat, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Erin Brockovich, Gladiator, and Traffic. And knowing the industry now in the way that film snobs and film buffs like us are, in hindsight, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon probably should have gotten the award, which would have been the first non-English language movie before Parasite. I do think Crouching Tiger is a better film, personally.
It's a good one, yeah.
We'll have to watch it on the podcast, on the massive list of movies that we have to schedule out. But that is going to bring us to the end of this episode. Adrian, if anyone out there doesn't know where to find us yet, even though I put our Instagram handles in the beginning of this episode and always link everything, where should they go?
Yeah, links down below for everything, but the Drive Back podcast everywhere. Podcasting apps, here on YouTube, wherever you want to find us, chat with us. On YouTube, you'll get a bit of extra content. I know Garrett was talking recently about filming a Blu-ray collection video, so if you want to find out what a film buff like him keeps it within arm's reach, that video will ideally be out sometime soon, but that won't be a podcast, so definitely stick around on YouTube and hit the bell. We post all of our stuff every Monday, regardless, whether you listen or you watch. So go ahead and subscribe on whatever podcasting app, like Overcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. 5-star reviews, you get a shout out on the podcast. Big blimp advertisement, so we'll give you a big old shout out. And let us know what you think.
That is absolutely correct. Next week, we have a Phone a Friend episode. One of our friends has recommended that we watch the film The Fighter, which, if I am not mistaken, is going to be streaming on Netflix, Prime Video, and Paramount Plus. So if you got all three of them, hey, watch a third of it on each of those platforms, just to give them all the attention. But that is going to bring us to an end for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We love you so much. We'll see you next time here on The Drive Back with a cat paw to the face. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Drive Back. Make sure to be on the lookout for new episodes every Monday, and make sure to follow us on social media.